Hi everyone, you're all very welcome to this urban field study which is going to be based on my hometown of Killarney in County Kerry. This is for the Teaching Subject Masteries Humanity pillar, as you all know. My name is Jim O'Donovan and my student number is 2000903. So let's move on with the field study. Some of the learning outcomes for this podcast presentation are as follows. The rationale behind this topic and why I chose it. The significance of this field study with regards to the history curriculum, an introduction into the history of Killarney and some of its famous monuments, how to incorporate key skills into a field study, and how cross-curricular methods can be achieved with this field study. So firstly we'll have a look at the rationale behind this topic in relation to the study of history. So firstly, to develop in students the knowledge, understanding, concepts, skills and values that are fundamental to the study of history. Secondly, to provide students with an historical perspective that improves their understanding of their contemporary world. To encourage recognition that historical narratives must be based on evidence, emphasize the importance of independent thought, and also finally, but most importantly, to develop students' ability to think critically and to communicate. Now, the rationale in relation to the curriculum significance or the significance of this topic in relation to the history curriculum. The report on the research study will account for 20% of the total marks of their Leaving Certificate. Now, this field study is for junior certificate students, however, it can be recycled for Leaving Certificate students also, which I'll explain further on. Secondly, experience in evaluating documents will benefit the document based study, which is on the junior certificate. Thirdly, it develops students' ability to interrogate and evaluate a range of historical sources, which is vital throughout the junior certificate paper. And finally, the skills and understanding developed should inform their work on the topics for study, such as medieval Ireland, castles, the church, and World War II, which we'll examine throughout this field study. Our field study agenda for today will firstly see us go to Ross Castle, and secondly, we're going to have a look at the Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty monument, which was unveiled in 2013. So just a brief overview of Ross Castle. It was built in the late 15th century by one of the O'Donoghue Ross Gaelic chieftains. It is considered to be an example of the stronghold of an Irish chieftain during the Middle Ages. It is surrounded by a fortified bawn, its curtain walls defended by circular flanking towers, two of which remain today. Now, in relation to the junior certificate, this topic would be very useful in relation to the castle, church, and city topic. Students could learn about medieval castles and medieval Ireland. A task students could carry out is to identify features of a medieval castle with worksheets. So there would be a castle on a worksheet and they would have to fill in the labels of that castle. In 1970, the castle came into state ownership and has been beautifully restored by the Office of Public Works and refurnished in the style of a 17th century castle. After many years of fundraising, the statue of Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty was unveiled in full as part of his Memorial Week on Wednesday the 30th of October 2013 to mark the 50th anniversary of his death. Through the unveiling of this statue, the Memorial Committee has decided to create a permanent and fitting tribute to him in his hometown of Killarney. On that day, in 2013, the Memorial Committee stated that we hope that this and future generations will be inspired by Hugh O'Flaherty's incredible deeds and example and will in turn play their own part in making our world a better place. Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty was an intensely proud Irishman and deeply nationalist, having seen the Black and Tans in operation during his early years in the seminary. Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty realised very early on that he needed to be on the good side. That contrasted sharply with the position taken by Pope Pius XI, however, who hesitated while the Nazis seemed to run over Europe. Flaherty organised the escape route for Allied troops who had escaped prisoner of war camps or had been shot down but survived. Through an incredibly close network of friends and confidants, he set up safe houses all over Rome and in the Vatican itself, where his work soon drew grave suspicion from the Nazis. Kappler, who was the leader of the SS, suspected Flaherty and had him under surveillance at all times. O'Flaherty almost comes across as a Michael Collins figure, however hiding in plain sight, appearing each morning on the steps of St. Peter's and meeting with those who were organising the freedom runs. He helped everyone who sought refuge, including many Jews, which absolutely infuriated Kappler. The SS commander tried to have O'Flaherty kidnapped with a view to execution, but somehow O'Flaherty always managed to survive, earning him the nickname the Scarlet Pimpernel. By the end of World War II, Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty had helped over 6,500 Jewish, American and British soldiers escape from the Germans, and his activities earned him the nickname the Scarlet Pimpernel of the Vatican, as he became the master of disguises, evading capture from the Germans when he had to leave the security of the Vatican to go on his rescue missions. One story which is famous in Killarney is having left once upon a time having left the neutral confines of the Vatican for a Freedom Route meeting. The Nazis raided the house and O'Flaherty, who was hiding in the cellar. He was saved by sheer luck when two coalmen came to drop off their supplies, and he borrowed one of their outfits and strolled past the SS wearing the outfit and carrying a sack of coal. After the war, the Monsignor received many decorations, including Commander of the British Empire and the US Medal of Freedom. The Monsignor retired to Carsavine for the last 3 years of his life, and on the 30th of October 1963 he sadly passed away. His death was mourned throughout the world, including a front page tribute in the New York Times. Now, something like this would be very interesting on the field study, as behind the Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty statue are a number of medals. A task which could be carried out on the field study is to maybe cover the names underneath each medal and get students to evaluate and identify each medal. So that brings us to the end of our field study through Killarney. Now we're going to have a look at some key skills. I'm aware that there's a lot on this page, so I'm going to maybe pick a bullet point from each of the key skills and elaborate a small bit on that. So, information processing. Students will be using a range of methods to organize information. Communicating. Students will engage in conversation and express opinions throughout the field study. Being personally effective. Students will identify and evaluate personal goals. Students will be working together. It's fantastic for them as they're being taken out of the classroom and they're in charge of their own learning. Critical and creative thinking. Students will investigate the concept of historical evidence and the different types of sources of evidence. And working with others, again, students will be outside the classroom and they're going to be working with each other and working in pairs and groups to achieve learning outcomes. Finally, we're going to analyse some cross-curricular methods and see how other subjects can be brought into play in this field study. So firstly, linking with English, the first strand would be developing students' use of diction and their imagination. Students will be hearing new words and new grammar throughout the English language on this field study. Secondly, their receptiveness towards the language. And thirdly, to develop students' confidence and competence with history. This is going to link with English very well, as the whole field study will be carried out through English. However, just like with English, Irish can be referenced as well, as we've seen areas throughout this field study where Irish can be referenced, such as on Inishvallen's Island, where we spoke about previous. So this field study will link very strongly with geography as well, as I'm aware that geography students need to carry out a research project in Leaving Certificate as well. Just like a lot of students in the humanities pillar are studying geography, geography also aims to develop students' research skills. A geographer's and a historian's perspective benefits from this field study, as students will be introduced to new areas and new landscapes in Ireland. This field study will also link with art and art history. The study of art and architecture provides a valuable historical context for students studying Leaving Certificate Art and Art History. Throughout this field study we have studied Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, a statue and mural which were unveiled in 2013. Students of art and art history will benefit greatly from this study. So coming to the end of this podcast presentation, I hope this presentation has been successful in delivering the following: a rationale behind this topic and why I chose it, displaying how this field study is significant and relevant to the history curriculum, a little insight into the history of Killarney and how it can be useful with reference to tasks and a field study, how key skills can be referenced in this field study, and finally some of the cross-curricular methods which can be achieved using this field study. Thank you very much for listening.